Welcome to Wayward Writers. I'm senior literary agent and author Heather Cashman.
I'm author and writing coach Stephanie Bearce.
And I'm author and writing coach Nicki Jacobsmeyer.
Our mission is to nurture and enrich established writers throughout their publishing journeys.
We welcome all genres, age groups, and publishing paths through video podcasts, online webinars, in-person retreats, and more.
We're here to help you conquer your path.
Welcome to this episode of Wayward Writers. We're excited to have author Julie Berman with us today. And Nicki is a friend of hers, so we are going to let Nicki introduce her.
Great. I'd love to. Julie Berman loves having breakfast with friends, snuggling with her kitty cat Miles, binge watching Ted Lasso again, and savoring anything chocolate. She can often be found in the quiet room of her local library, writing, revising, or getting distracted by the romance novels on her Kindle app. After a long career as a speech-language pathologist, her retirement years have been busy with church activities, service projects through her Kiwanis Club chapter, visits with kids and grandkids, and frequent walk through the woods. She lives in the St. Louis area. Julie is working on the next installment of her Willow Grove series set in a senior living community. These stories show that women can be strong, independent, and resilient, and can still experience romance later in life. Very good to know. Julie, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I am thrilled. I'm excited today to talk about later in life romances and books. And I know when I first met you, honestly, what I met first was the cover of your book. And it was stunning. And I think when I met you, that was your book cover is amazing. And we chatted about that. And then I found out that you indie publish, which is an even more extraordinary achievement. And that you had your cover it looked very much thousands and thousands of dollars were poured into it. And then I read your excerpt and I was like, we need to have Julie on here. And then we got to know each other. So I'm excited you're here, not only as a person, but as a writer and sharing your experience. So can you just tell us a little bit about your journey so far?
Sure, I'd love to. So I think my whole life, I felt like a pretty good writer, like mechanically. I am a speech pathologist, so I know a lot about language and grammar and things like that. And I did a lot of professional writing and did a little bit of nonfiction writing as a young adult, did some Christian education materials. But I never really thought of myself as a creative writer until I retired. And I thought, I really want to write a novel. It just sounded like a good creative outlet and concrete goal that I could have in retirement. I didn't want to feel unproductive in my retirement years, and I just decided to tackle it. And so I educated myself about the craft of fiction writing and also publishing tracts and things like that. And I just took it one baby step at a time and did it. And so I self-published my first novel, my only novel so far, in June at the age of 63. And you probably know this, but Laura Ingalls Wilder was 65 when she published her first novel. So it's called Elsie's New Season. And let me show you a little cover. It's later in sweet, I would call it a sweet later in life romance. So sweet meaning, although I celebrate that we can be sexual beings in our later years, it doesn't have any explicit sex scenes on the page. Later in life or seasoned romance is sometimes defined as 35 plus. My characters are in their 70s, so it's a truly later in life romance. And the main character is Elsie, who is a widow and who is struggling and stuck in her grief. She's isolated herself to some extent, and so she knows she needs a change. And she moves into a senior living community that's set in St. Louis and helps her daughter, who's a police investigator, solve a series of thefts. And she meets a gruff but handsome neighbor who makes the sparks fly. So that's where I'm at with my journey.
That's so fun. Well, thank you.
There's a lot of later in life after 35. Just want
to. This is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Can I just say that's horrifying?
I know.
35, first of all, women...
70 if that's later in life. That's not good.
Yeah, aren't we in our prime at 35? But then all of a sudden we're later in life. I mean, that we're going to have to do a different episode, Julie, on the problem with that statement.
Seriously. But yeah, like on the Facebook groups for later in life romance, you like as a writer, I have to prove that I have characters over 35. That's the 35 or 40 is the cutoff, which boggles my mind.
I'm feeling pain right now.
Wow. Okay. Everyone take a minute.
Yes. Julie, what drew you to writing these love stories about later in life? And we mean much later than 35. The second half.
I've always been fascinated by people's stories, especially older people's stories about what they've lived through and the resilience that they show. So that's a lot of it. I wanted to share a story of life after loss. And I also wanted to portray a positive aspect of independent living or senior living. A lot of people lump everything into one category and look at it as a nursing home. There's lots of levels of care and there's lots of differences between them. I think this is a very positive portrayal of independent living setting in a senior living community.
That's great.
Very cool. Yeah. Do you yourself live in an independent senior living?
No, but my mom did. So my mom lived for several years in an independent living community and just loved it. There's something, as you walk down, even in the buildings with apartments, and there's all different kinds of setups. There's patio homes, but even in the hallways with the apartments, it feels like in a positive way, a dorm-like setting. And so there's a little part of my book that I talk about the jump between the rock band posters on the doors, and now it's silk flowers and seasonal arrangements. It feels like that kind of community.
That's awesome.
Do you think that there's unique challenges, or do you think that there's more freedoms when you're writing romance for older protagonists compared to younger protagonists?
I think both. I think to be authentic, the characters need not to have perfect bodies, and they need to have emotional wounds that they've lived through, and they can be stuck in their ways. After years and years of living a certain way, you're often resistant to change. And so I think those kind of aspects need to be portrayed to feel like authentic characters that people can relate to.
That's great. So how do you balance this realism, right? We're always aging, right? But apparently at an accelerated rate once we hit 35. And
I said that. I hate to tell you that.
No, it's awesome.
No, I love it. But I guess that's the reality of the genre. But I just find it interesting and probably discouraging if you're 35 and you haven't found your partner yet. But okay. Maybe we'll open our Facebook chat to that to unload and unpack that. Okay, so sorry. So how do you balance this realism, right? Where you're aging, your family dynamics changing, maybe you're finishing up careers, all that with the joy and hopefulness of a new romance?
The thing that makes me think of is a scene in the book, which is actually one of my favorite scenes. So Elsie is feeling very self-conscious about her body as she grows closer to Sam, and is reluctant to become intimate with him. And so there's just this lovely scene where he affirms her in a very tender, kind of playful way. And I don't know if you will indulge me. Can I read a little paragraph?
Absolutely. We'd love to.
So she has shared with him some of the parts of her body that she's a little self-conscious about, and he has reassured her about those. And then he says, "Anything else?" he teased. I could enumerate my wrinkles. He chuckled and brought his hands up to frame her face. Elsie. How could that voice saying that one word make her feel so treasured? I don't want to discount your feelings because I know they are real, but I want you to know you are absolutely beautiful to me. You have a beautiful soul and a beautiful body. You are made up of all your experiences and all your loves. Every part of you is precious to me. I want to be closer to you and give you pleasure, but this is your timetable. I'm content to be with you, to talk to you, to kiss you, and to eat cinnamon rolls with you. I don't want you to feel any pressure to rush this. I want you to be sure. He kissed her as if she were a fragile flower.
Oh,
so that kind of...
That's very sweet. I love that.
Thank you. How I kind of balance the reality of we feel as we age with what is possible. and how we would like a person to react.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely, Julie. And I'm wondering if you should make Valentine's Day cards for the husbands and partners later in life. They have a good script, because it's very tender. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
That is
Nice.
When you're writing these books, they're about older adventurous people. What themes do you find yourself returning to in your stories?
There are several themes. The grief journey is definitely one of those themes. Faith is also another theme that I return to in terms of the strength that it can provide us. Even when we get disillusioned or fall away from that, we can rediscover that again and again. I also have a personal belief in inclusion within the religious community, so I portray a church that tries to be very inclusive of everyone as people who are loved by God. Another theme would be forgiveness, forgiving yourself as well as others. Reconciliation, because estrangement among family members is very common. And also just the relationship between an older adult with their adult children. A lot of times we get the perspective of caring for a parent. This is a parent who's starting to experience being taken care of by an adult child. So there's a lot of complicating factors in those relationships. And so that's portrayed as well in my book. Mm-hmm.
Those are all very real themes and valuable ones, I think, to explore.
Mm-hmm. And I think they must.
You have a lot to work with on that, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be authentic if you weren't exploring a lot of those those things. So when you're writing an older love story, how are they different from the under 35 crowd? Are they more about some certain aspect of the relationship than others, or do you feel like they're similar, or what do you think?
I think there are definitely similarities, but I think, again, you've got a backstory that's very important, emotional wounds that are very important. I think it's mostly the emphasis on resilience and the ability to find joy in whatever season you're in. At least that's my focus. And then I think the importance of community and friendship as it becomes even more important to a lot of us in our older years. And I think the passion and the sensuality does exist, and that's important to portray because people think that's over by then. But it's a little bit different. It's more about the connection and for me, the connection and the relationship than just the passion and the one-night stand type romance novels. But that's certainly part of it. And I think that's important to get across, that doesn't necessarily end at whatever age you think it ends at.
It almost seems like these would tend toward women's fiction rather than straight romance.
Yeah.
Do you find that difficult to kind of walk that line? And are yours truly straight romance, or do you think they have some of those elements in there?
Yeah, that's a great question because I've struggled with that. I think that the love story is the basis of my story, and that's why I call it a romance. I self-published it, so I didn't have the direction of an agent and an editor and a publisher on what I should call it. So I'd be interested to see if any of you all have a different opinion, if you ever get to read it, to see if I've categorized it correctly. Because I think it overlaps a lot with women's fiction and some of the issues, obviously, that would be dealt with in that genre.
Mm-hmm. We love genre blends.
Yeah, definitely. Is.
Yeah.
Good.
And mine, I was a little bit worried about going the traditional route because it overlaps. It's got some Christian fiction in it, but it also has swearing and doesn't meet some of the other criteria of Christian fiction, but it's not steamy. It's a combination of...
It sounds real.
Yeah. A meld.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It sounds real, and I think you're going to find a great audience out there because I think that's something that you can provide that trade publishing can't provide or doesn't provide.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, depending if you use tropes and if there's always a happy ending, right? That's things too. Women's fiction, we don't necessarily always get that. No. Romance, though.
Right. That's the other thing. Yeah, it definitely
right?
has a
Like,
happy ending.
is a certainty that that has to be delivered.
And
it doesn't have to be, but
and it does have a grumpy neighbor kind of trope.
Right, exactly. So that's great. I think, like Heather said, crossing genres like that, it's really nice. And it's surprising for people that read strictly in one genre and then they're open, like, oh, wait, I liked that. I think that's awesome that you do that for your readers.
Yeah. Also, mine has a bit of a mystery subplot. So I don't call it a cozy mystery because I don't consider myself a mystery writer and I don't want to disappoint mystery readers, but it does have a bit of a mystery subplot and a surprise culprit, I should say. So
you have something for everyone.
Yeah,
I know.
Of everything. Yeah.
That's so great. So how do your protagonists' life experiences shape the way they approach love? Like, for instance, you said Essie is a widow.
Yeah.
I don't know what is your gentleman's name?
Sam.
The gruff?
Sam.
Yeah. I don't know his background, but how they view it.
Yeah, so Elsie is a widow. So she was very hesitant. She felt like she was betraying her husband in a way by even considering getting into another relationship. I don't want to call her lucky, but she was able to have a conversation with her late husband before he passed because he was ill for so long about this. Now, many of us, including me, did not have that opportunity. So she had a conversation with him and he was very adamant that she be open to another relationship. So I think that helped her. Now, Sam did not feel worthy of being loved. He had a lot of regret about his past. He's a recovering alcoholic and just did not feel worthy. But together they were able to navigate that journey together and really grow, each of them and together as a couple.
I like that. It gives them, it really shows how your life experiences affect your approach to relationships too. Is this a part of why you think it's important to tell love stories about people who aren't in their 20s?
I do. And so there's a lot of me in Elsie. There's some of my mom in Elsie. And then Elsie's just her own person too. As I have told Nicki, I've done quite a bit of caregiving in my life, both with my husband and with a close friend who I cared for and my parents before they passed. So that's in here, the journey of a caregiver. And then the grief journey, of course. There are a couple things that Elsie, maybe more than a couple, but a couple of things that Elsie experiences is she wears her husband's T-shirts to bed. That's her nightgown, and that's mine too. So I wear my husband's T-shirts to bed. It feels like he's with me. So that's direct for me. And then the other thing that's pretty direct is she keeps a handwritten love note that he wrote that says, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," with little musical note drawing, because Gladys Knight saying, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." Hopefully you remember that. So I keep that in my grief devotion book, and that's what Elsie does too. She keeps that in her grief devotion book. So there's a lot of kind of personal details in there that reflect my journey as well. So it is definitely a lot of the reason that I lean towards this sort of story to be real but hopeful at the same time.
Yeah.
You're so brave, Julie.
I feel very vulnerable when I put it out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, being vulnerable like that, brave.
Yeah.
However, I think this makes your readers fall in love with your work because it's rooted in, it's real and it's authentic. Yeah, I think in the long run that means a lot to your readers because there's readers out there that are either have currently, past, or future experiencing those things.
Right.
So I have a question on the flip side. So unfortunately, with every age group, there's stereotypes. So sometimes the ones of us later in life are less than flattering than other age groups. So how do you combat that? How do you challenge these stereotypes in your writing?
I think in several ways. We've talked about the one that says older people aren't sexual beings anymore. So that is one that I try just to blatantly crush that one. And then another one is that old people don't swear. At least some of the people, like I had a beta reader who said, "I've just never heard 70-year-olds swear." And I've got mild swearing in mine. It's not like much, but it's there. And so
never met my grandma.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. So I've gotten feedback both ways on that. It's interesting because that conference I went to in Arkansas recently, there was a fellow writer who bought my book at the book table. And the next morning she said, "Oh, I'm on chapter 6 already. I really like it. There's 3 swear words in the first chapter." And I'm like, "Oh," and she said, "I didn't think that was necessary." So thanks for that feedback. I appreciate that. The next morning she came to me, "I'm on chapter 21. She's like, "Okay."
don't you love critique feedback after the book is published?
Yeah, I'm like, what am I going to do about
helpful. I guess it is helpful for the next one if you want to take that, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. And Elsie even says that she's wrestling with her washing machine in the opening scene, and she swears under her breath and admits that she doesn't usually swear in public, but sometimes there's nothing that works better than a swear word. And so she's pretty upfront about that.
So what about stereotypes like the Progressive commercials, which by far are one of my favorite marketing campaigns ever? Like things like that, right? Cliche or not.
You're becoming your father.
Yes, or your mother. Cliche or not, cliches are usually based on truth. That's why they're a cliche. But how do you lean into some of the things that, like you said, being resistant to change, certain things that just become part of who we are as we get into our silver years? Or are you more, no, that's not happening, or do you use it playfully, or probably depends on the situation?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Just the grumpy old man, that's in there. And he does come out of that to some extent and goes through some pretty dramatic arc there. But I have a side character who's a complainer and just complains about everything, but I do that in a playful way. They complain in this dining room about how many different varieties of chicken breasts they have. What a first world problem that is. There's 12 varieties.
It's always it's always in the dining room, Julie. Yeah. I don't think that I used to work in more of an assisted nursing living. I think it just excels. And I was in the kitchen, and I tell you, I didn't know there were so many thoughts on tomato soup.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I just had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great, though. I love that you embrace that part and use it to shape characters. And everyone at 70 swears, but those that do, it's probably reflecting something right about them. So.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. So, Julie, writing for the older, have you found when in talking to people who are picking up do you think that the romance genre is evolving to make more room for diverse age representation? Or are you on the groundbreaking?
I don't know. I feel like it is. I can't tell you. There are a lot of Facebook groups of seasoned romance readers and writers. There's a online chapter of the Romance Writers of America that's called Age to Perfection, which I'm a part of, which is a seasoned romance writers group. And you just look at what's popular. Man on the Inside with Ted Danson on Netflix. That's very popular. Yes. By the way, I can prove I wrote my book before that came out. There's like a similar premise. Seriously, there's a similar premise. And I'm looking at this. This is like my story. Where he moves in and helps solve a crime. I was like, wow. But that was real popular. And then, of course, The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which I just love. His characters are so quirky and smart.
I do too.
And clever. And it's set in a senior living community, and they're in their 70s and 80s. So I think our population is aging. It makes sense that this kind of genre or related genres are becoming more popular. Yeah.
Okay. Since I found out I'm in this age category, I think I might write one. So what advice would you give for me as an aspiring writer when I want to explore a later in life love story? Do you have any advice?
I would say backstory is important in any novel, obviously, but I think it's even more important in later in life novels because these folks have lived through a lot of things and it's definitely affected them. And for me, that's really important. One thing that helped me with that was The Emotional Wound Thesaurus by Angela Ackerman. There's a second author too. But that really helped me explore past wounds and what effects that might have on your characters. I think they wrote The Emotion Thesaurus too, which helps show, not tell, what a person is feeling. So that was helpful to me as a new writer. And I think, as you guys have said so many times, finding a writing community, especially in that subgenre, is very important in supporting you and educating you and holding you accountable and networking and all those things. So that's been really important to me in my journey.
I have a question. We're talking about beta readers, which obviously is great. Are all your beta readers in later in life? Or is it more of a targeted, like 50 and over or something?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Now, you had Cherie Postal on your podcast a couple weeks ago, and she's a friend of mine, and I used her book, and it was very helpful to me when I was choosing my beta readers and figuring out what to ask them, and I did the little toolkits and everything like she explained. I know that beta readers ideally are your target audience. So most of my beta readers were 40 plus women, 40 plus. There were maybe 2 that were under 40. I had 8 altogether. So 2 that were under 40, a few that were 40 to 50. And then I had 2 of my mom's friends who were in their 80s, I believe, read it. So it was a variety of ages, but all above 30. And
yeah. Did you find their feedback similar or like extremely different depending on the age?
I don't know that it differed by age. It differed by were they truly romance readers or not. So one of my beta readers was supposedly likes all genres, right? So when she read my book, her background in mostly reading crime drama her.
That's fair.
About my book. But on the other hand, I'm glad I used her because her feedback was so helpful to tweak my mystery part of it and all the details of that. So it helped me immensely, even though she had some criticism, which is what you want to hear in a way.
Yeah.
But I had to learn how to take feedback. I was like, what to change and what to say. No, I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. And that was a hard process for me to figure out. So
it is hard.
It's a hard process for all
with editors. With editors
I don't think I don't think it matters what book or manuscript you're on. It's your baby. So yeah, we're with you there. Yeah.
And I did use 2 levels of that. I did use a developmental editor and what I would say a line editor. And that was very helpful. I'm really glad I did that, particularly on my first novel.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it sounds like you've done everything the right way.
Oh, no.
Modeled for someone going out and trying to indie publish, because it's hard.
Yeah.
Where did you find your editors, your developmental editors?
I used Bryn Donovan, who I think used to be the president of the Chicago North Romance Writers Group. And so I have a friend who recommended her. And I had gotten a sample edit from someone else, and it just didn't feel like it clicked with me. And so I contacted her, and I was very pleased with her edit. Yeah.
That's wonderful. What about the cover design?
Okay, so I went to my library writing group, which I go to every month, and there was a woman there who had published, and I was asking questions about book covers because I was working on that. And she said she really liked her book designer. Book covers by Melody, Melody. Melody Simmons, I think her name is. And she was very reasonable. I looked at her website and it looked like a vibe that would work for me. And she was very gracious in doing, it was very reasonable priced. And she did several revisions without extra cost and formatted the back blurb and everything very well, and even did my bookmark for me later. Nice. I was very pleased. Nice. Yeah, because I think it shows the genre. It shows an older couple.
The market.
Yeah.
Like romance a lot. And that is the type of book cover that is selling right now. And that seems like duh, but it's not always duh. Yeah. And so that's really important. And I think that's why your covers so stand out to me, because it was like you did all the things, right? Indie publishing done the way you do it, like so many do it so well, is amazing. And yeah, that's good to know. I'm sure our writers out there that are hybrid and indie love of who they can call. So
yeah, I appreciate that feedback because it was definitely a learning curve. There are so many things to learn, and I'm still learning. I'm trying to figure out this whole marketing and promotion thing, which is not
when you get that figured out.
Let us know.
Figured out. Will you please let the rest of us know all about it? Okay.
What I'm doing mostly is local speaking engagements. I'm doing
Yeah.
senior living communities with a friend who does memoir type writing, and I spoke to a creative writing class. I'm doing book clubs. My first book club is tonight. I'm so excited. A friend of mine
Exciting.
has a book club, and she used my book, and so I get to go. And I have several more scheduled. So I figure word of mouth, St. Louis, because there's a lot of St. Louis references in here, Nicki.
Yes.
So there's a lot of locations and settings from St. Louis in here, which is
Right.
And Julie, what I keep hearing you say is you're getting your connections. When I met my library writing group, when I met that's where you found your editor. That's where you found your cover design. And so thank you it's nice when we hear it from someone else too, that like that networking, meeting people, going to conferences and stuff like that. If you can, like we say, that's where the magic happens. So.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely. The St. Louis Writers Guild, where I met you.
Yes.
It's really important to network. And I've listened to some of your episodes about navigating conferences and the social anxiety that comes up with it. And I employed some of your strategies.
Oh, good.
I appreciate that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good. Julie, let's talk about your main characters and them giving advice. If your main characters could give one piece of advice about love to younger readers, what would it be?
The hard part of that question is one. Okay, so I guess if I were...
Okay, well then you can do more than one.
Okay.
You can do more than one.
I would say the most important thing is that you are worthy of love. I think a lot of people don't believe that, and I think everyone is worthy of love. So I guess that would be number one. But also give yourself grace and give the other person grace. And that covers a lot of things, but that's, I think, important. And then just be willing to be open and vulnerable to really make that connection and find that love that you're even not looking for, but finding that love that might be there for you.
I think that's good advice for all kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good advice.
So, what is something you've learned that was surprising or heartwarming while writing this love story?
I think one of the things I learned is that I can learn new things. I don't know that I always believed that about myself. In my profession, I was stuck in one setting and population, and then I finally learned that I could learn a new setting and work with children instead of adults, for example. And so when I retired, I thought, okay, I can learn something new. This is a big thing to learn, but I can do it. And then I can accomplish big things. So I set this goal, and I know the stats about how many people say they're going to write a book, how many people actually finish a book, how many people publish a book. And so that's been something I've learned, that I can actually accomplish big things. And the other thing I think is that in writing this and sharing this story, that joy and connection can happen no matter what has come before. I think that a lot of folks feel like that's not one of, or both of those are not really possible for them. And I think finding joy in every season of your life, even though some are very difficult, is important to focus on, and really can affect your overall mental health and happiness. And just being in the attitude of looking for joy and being grateful for the things that you can be grateful for.
Yeah, I love that.
Great advice.
Well, I don't know how we could end any better than that, Julie. So
Yeah.
everyone go out and grab your copy of Elsie's new season. And Julie said that I believe she's working on the second in the series.
I am.
Is that true? Yay.
It is. It's going to be set in the same Willow Groves Independent Living Center, but new main characters. But you'll get to visit a little bit with Sam and Elsie and a few of the
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Oh,
Julie,
that's exciting.
thank you so much for being on our show and sharing how, I guess we're all part of the Later in Life romance group. So
Yes,
thank you
we
for
are.
your advice and your experiences.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been fun. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Wayward Writers.
Let's connect. Find us at waywardwriters.com, X, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
See you next time. Conquer your path.